Today is Chaf Av, the 20th in the month of Av, which is the yard site of Rebbe Levik. Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, the Rebbe's father, who was a great rabbi and leader and scholar. And his writings, which were printed by the Rebbe, are extremely profound and quite original as well in their style. And so I wanted to get a little flavor of it. I found a fascinating article here, which was written by R Yoel Kahn, an overview and an analysis of the Rebbe Levi Yitzchak's style and thought. The author of this, Rebbe Yoel Kahn, is probably the greatest teacher of Hasidus in our times. He should be well. He's well into his 80s, but still teaching. This article he would have written, it looks like, maybe 30, 40 years ago. Yeah, so quite some time ago. And in it, he himself, Rebbe Yoel Kahn, is known as an extremely deep mind and a great genius. And so there aren't so many people who could write an overview of anything, and certainly of Rebbe Levi Yitzchak's Torah, which is something so deep and so profound and so broad in its scope. It takes a great mind to be able to capture that. One of the signs of genius is the ability to see the big picture of something and to put it together, and that's something that Rebbe Yoel certainly had and has presented in this article. And he gives a little bit of a flavor of Rebbe Levik's style. So I thought that would be nice to experience. So he titles it Kavim L'derech Limudei Shel Hagon Rebbe Levi Yitzchak Zatzal Av Shel Yibadol L'chaim Tovim K'vektus Ad Mashlita. So these are perspectives on the learning style of the great genius Rebbe Levi Yitzchak, the father of the Rebbe, by Rebbe Yoel Kahn. Let's have a look. There are two general approaches to studying an intellectual topic. There's two different ways or styles of learning. Aleph, one of them is ha'iyun v'diuk b'pratei ha'inyan hanilmad. One way is to analyze and go into the specifics of the details of the topic that you're learning. By looking at every single detail of the concept of the subject that you're learning in isolation. So, for example, in the various commentaries on the Torah, if you look at the commentaries, there are many commentaries that write a commentary word by word. Rashi is a good example. That Rashi, you read a verse from the Torah, then you look at Rashi's commentary. He quotes from the verse particular words and he explains those words and what they mean. Specifics, details, looking at each thing on its own. And somebody who goes into this style of learning, of the detailed style of learning, will also analyze those details that at first glance would seem to be peripheral to the topic and not directly connected to the actual subject. Like many of the commentaries will look at specific words and the details of the words or the spelling of them. It's not the actual subject matter, it's a detail within it, a detail within a detail that doesn't seem necessarily connected to the subject matter. Meaning, with this approach of learning, there's an importance placed on every single detail in and of itself. Not as a part of a whole, just the specifics, the words themselves. When we learn Torah, every single word is divine. And so therefore this word, not the whole paragraph, not the whole page, just this word is significant and its meaning. This letter is significant. Why there's an extra letter here or there, all of that is meaningful and significant. And in and of itself. Havana gam b'chlolas inyan. And even though with this approach of this detailed approach of learning, of course, through understanding the details clearly, you will have an added understanding in the big picture of what you're studying. So when you learn Rashi and he explains what a word means, so now I understand the sentence better. And when he understands why this is spelt in this way and not that way, so then I get the context better. But nevertheless, but the concentration, the focus of the mind of studying in this way, your mind is focused on the details, not on the big picture. So that's how you're studying. You're studying on looking at the trees, not the forest. So when you learning in this way, you're not just looking at the specifics of the concept, meaning breaking down the idea into specifics. You're looking in even the linguistic specifics. So for example, there may be a particular word that doesn't seem to be grammatically correct. There might be a word that is masculine that would be expected to be in feminine, or the other way around. So we find several times that there may be a single word that you would expect it to be in the masculine, but it's found in the feminine, or the other way around. That's a grammatical detail. So here we're not talking about a conceptual detail. It's just the grammar seems to not fit in a particular pasuk or a word. On the simple level, this is not you're not talking about content here. This is not the intellectual content of the words. It's the grammatical structure of the word. That is a very detailed thing. So some people are into this type of learning. There are different types of minds around, and so some people's minds are more detail focused, more into the specifics, and will read a verse or hear an idea or study a concept, and the questions they'll have are detail-oriented questions. The things that they'll analyze are, why is that word written that way? Or what's the meaning of this specific word? Or why is that phrase here? Or why is the grammar seemingly wrong there? These are the details, the specifics. And that's one way of learning, that's one approach that appeals to certain people, and also is stylistically, that's how some people are, very detail-oriented. Looking at the trees, not the forest. Then based, the other way is the opposite. The other way of learning and studying is to analyze and to delve into the generality, the bigger picture of the concept you're studying. But nekudas hasvara hamarkazes shel hasugya, to try and find what is the underlying common denominator in this topic that we're studying. What's the bottom line of it? What's the center point? What's the principle behind it? Not the detail that we're talking about, but what's the underlying theory, which is the bigger picture. So I'm not going into words, I'm not going into details, I'm looking at what's the generality of it. What's the not the commonality, what's the essence of the topic. With this approach, you're not so concerned with the presentation of the idea, every expression and every detail of how it's said. That's not what you're looking at. Why is this word chosen? That's not the issue here. That's not what you're into. For example, there's a Mishnah that says that the Mishnah talks about what happens if two people find a garment. They're both holding it. Each one is saying, it's mine. Right? That's what the Mishnah talks about. So, if you learn that Mishnah, you could say, so why does it say two people holding a talus? Why does it use the word talus for a garment? Two people holding a garment. Why two? Why they're holding it? They're the details of it. Or you can say, what's the principle that this Mishnah is trying to teach you? What's the underlying message? So this approach, the second approach, the general, bigger picture approach, certainly will not start questioning the exact expression, the language used. The Mishnah there says, two people holding the talis. This one says it's mine, and this one says it's mine. So why does it say this one says it's mine and this one says it's mine? Why doesn't it say they both say it's mine? That's going into the details. That's going to the language. That's the first way of learning. The second way of learning is you don't go into that. You just try and get in. What's the idea? What's the principle? What's the lesson? The aim, the purpose of this second way of learning, of studying, is one and one thing only. There's only one thing we're trying to get out of it, and that is to penetrate into the depth of the thought process, the logic. What's the idea? In the case of that Mishnah, the concept that's being taught is that when you have a monetary dispute, we have money and we have something of financial value, and we don't know who it belongs to. So in that case, the law is that it's split between the two. When neither has proof that it's theirs, two people are holding it, so it gets split. That's the concept. That's the principle. So again, you got two different people learning the same exact topic. And this sometimes happens, particularly when you have a chavrusa learning, a partner learning, when you're learning with somebody else. So sometimes you get matched up with somebody who has a different way of learning to you. And so you're both reading the same thing, but one of you is interested in the expressions and the details, word for word, and the other one is just looking at the concept altogether. One of you is looking at the trees, one at the forest. It's a different stylistic thing. It's just different personalities. And in life in general, we have people who are detail-oriented and people who are big picture-oriented. There are people who, it seems, get lost in all the pettiness of every small different thing. There are some people who seem so detached from that, they're only looking at the big plan, the big picture. It's two different brains, two different minds, two different ways of operating, of analyzing. So,
doesn't the Torah want us to be more into detail? Like each letter means something, and why is this extra word? And that's very detailed.
Sure, but only that?
What? Oh, you're saying,
There's two different things.
But you're saying some people will do it this way, some people will do it this way. So
I'm saying naturally, some people will learn something and start questioning the details. Other people naturally don't even notice that. They're in the principle level. So some people, when they're learning, they're just learning what it says on the page, and that's it. That's all they see. Whereas others, they're connecting it to other things, and they're flying away already because they're seeing the principle, not the detail. Which is better? Neither is better. There are two different ways of looking at it. Of course, we have to develop both and work on both. But our nature is one way or the other, mostly. So, and what we enjoy learning as well. Like some people like to hear big ideas, and that's what they're into, the idea level. Others enjoy the pulling apart of the details. Whereas some of us, that just doesn't appeal to us. The grammatical analysis of the verse just doesn't. You didn't notice that in the first place, and that's not what your question was. Whereas other people love that. So it's different natures.
Is such a chavrusa work, by the way?
It might be great.
Yeah.
Or it could be very frustrating.
Would it bother the one that's more the overall, wouldn't like the nitty-gritty, like kind of...
It can. But the ideal way of learning is that's the whole point of a chavrusa, is to hear it from somebody else's perspective. Not to look at it your perspective. So I never would have asked that question. But now you mentioned it's a good question.
I'm sure most people are somewhere in between, like in extreme one way or the other. There are some, but everyone's got a bit of both.
Yeah, a bit of both, but most of us tend one way or the other.
Really?
And there are some people who are both also like Completely. Or appreciate both.
Yeah, they're having like a teacher for Gemara before, like they just read it in general, whatever's on the page. Now I've got another one. They have to read all the details and define every what every word means.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it's very different way of learning.
Yeah.
So has to get used to this
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
type of learning.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So continues Rebbe Yoel, the second paragraph. He said, even more than this, Yodua be'inyan mevin davar mitoich davar. There's a concept of a person who has bina. Bina, understanding, literally the way it's translated by Chazal, is bina means the ability to understand one thing from another thing, to extrapolate information. When you study this, you can apply it to there. Meaning, Shabbos Dvarim Elu, the two things here that you can understand one thing from another, the two things involved, they're two different concepts, two different areas of thought. But they may have the same common denominator. There's maybe an underlying principle that covers both, that includes both. But the principle is quite abstract. The application of the principle is specific to this topic or that topic, but when you strip it of its details and you reach the core of it, it applies to both. It's hard to appreciate principles. To understand an abstract concept is very difficult. When you teach a child 2 + 2 = 4, that means nothing. But when you take 2 oranges and another 2 oranges, and you say, look, you've got 2 oranges, I've got 2 oranges, let's put them together. How many have we got now? We've got 4. So you get that. That makes sense. Now the truth is that if there weren't oranges, if there were apples, it also would apply. It's not specific to oranges, this idea. It's a general principle. And in fact, if you had 2 shades of light, and you added to that 2 different shades of light, you'd also have 4. Like it doesn't have to be this object. It applies everywhere. But the concept 2 + 2 = 4 is an abstract concept. We know it. We're familiar with it because we were introduced to it by physical objects. So when you apply something to something specific, it's a bit easy to understand. The abstract principle behind it is quite hard for our mind to grasp without these applications. The power of Bina is that I get not just the application of it, I get the principle behind it, and I can therefore apply it to other situations. If somebody didn't have Bina, for example, if somehow the faculty of Bina was not working for somebody, so then if you'd show them 2 oranges and 2 oranges, it's 4 oranges. They'd say, great. Then if you would show them 2 apples and 2 apples, they wouldn't. They'd say, I don't know. Bina is that I see it here, so I can apply it to there. It's not just oranges. By going into the abstract and using that abstract to apply it to other concrete examples. So in that particular example, that's a very simplistic one. When it gets on deeper ideas, to see the principle behind the idea and be able to apply it to other places correctly, that takes a very deep mind.
Isn't it Das application of it?
No, that's emotional application. That Das is bringing it into emotions. Here we're talking about the intellectual application of an idea that applies to another idea. So it's very difficult to grasp that concept and to be able to apply it. Somebody who's given a very refined intellect, who's blessed with a supple mind that is able to not just be stuck in that idea where it is, but to find the principle behind it and then apply it to other places. Only such a person is blessed with that. Novin, that's called a person with great understanding. Which we find even in Moshe's times, was not easy to find such a person. That there's a Kanim, to be the elders, there had to be a Novin, a person with Bina. It's a rare commodity. It's not such a common asset that people have. But Koicha Liris and Nakuda Mufshetis over the back of the page, Halazu. Such a Novin, such a person with great understanding is able to strip the idea of its externality and get to its core, hatoich davar, the inside of the idea, the inner core of the idea, hatoichis v'pnimis shabasbara, the inner level of it, v'lachein b'yicholtei lahavin mimena oid davar, and therefore apply it to some other circumstance. ומכיוון שכן, כאשר מסעמקים בכל העניין מנקודת הסברה, הנה לא זו בלבד שאין המחשבה מסכבת ומצמצמת בפרטים שבאיס הסוגיה גופה. So then, such a person has the ability, when they analyze deeply into a concept, into the inner essence of the concept, not only does their mind not get stuck on the details of this particular topic, but even more, everything that person learns, they find parallels in other places. So not only are they not getting stuck in this topic, they're seeing the essence of this topic, but when you see the essence of this topic, you see it in other places as well, and you can connect it to other places correctly. And therefore, what you understand from here can be applied to there, and suddenly the intellectual world opens up, a much broader world. So he continues. The difference between these two approaches, the detailed approach and the broad approach, can be illuminated according to what's explained in Chassidus, that every idea has a body and has a soul. Just like every person and every animal, every being has a body and a soul, so too every idea has a body and a soul. The first approach is to emphasize the body of the idea, and the second approach is to emphasize the soul of it. Just like a person has a body and a soul, the body is the visible, tangible, concrete part of you, and the soul is that intangible essence that's behind you, that's your real you. So too an idea has the body and the soul of the idea. When you hear an idea, there's the presentation of it, and then there's the actual concept itself. They're two different layers of the same entity, the body of it and the idea of it, and the soul of it. The first approach is to look at the body, the details, and to analyze that. The second approach is to look at the soul of the idea. And on the level of soul, there's a much broader world. It's more connected. Like we, on the bodily level, we're all separate. On the soul level, we're all connected. So it would seem that what we're saying until now is that there's a great advantage, or far superior to look at things the second way than the first way. Looking at the body was looking at the superficial, external. Looking at the soul is the essence and the internal. Looking at the body is looking at the details, but just of this. Whereas looking at the soul, you see the broader picture, you connect it to other things. So he continues in the middle paragraph. So from here, we can understand that even though there's such great advantage of the second way over the first way, looking at the broader picture rather than being stuck in just the details, like the soul is superior to the body, but the completeness of study, of learning, is only there when you also appreciate the details and even the linguistic details, the way it's expressed. Because a soul without a body is not complete. Just like a body on its own is not called the person, that's called the person's body, so too a soul on its own is not called the person, that's the person's soul. The person is the body and soul together. The person, the term person is the unification of body and soul. That's a person. The Torah is compared to a person. Torah is also a persona that has a body and a soul. The completeness of learning Torah is when you not just you learn both the body and soul of Torah, but when you unite the body and soul of Torah. You see them as one. Like a person is only complete when the body and soul are one. So Torah and Torah study is only complete when it's seen as an organic whole. So, this is all introduction. Dumani, it seems to me, that this completeness, the completeness of body and soul together, is one of the features, the expressive, like the typical features that stands out in the writings of the great genius Rebbe Yitzchak. If you just have even just a little look in his books, in his great, he wrote his books as ha'aras. Most of them are side notes on Tanya, on Zohar, on the Chumash. If you look at them, and some of them take tens of pages, one note, one concept over tens of pages. They are full and they're so saturated, even though they're just called ha'aras, notes. But these notes are so full, so rich. That you're just amazed by the breadth, the giant breadth of it, and the unbelievable wealth of wisdom that seems to be unlimited in his writings. That how he explains with great logic and clarity, and with a structured approach, the many details of one saying of the sages, for example, in all different ways, but with one concept, he'll look at it and see the big picture. And then he parenthetically shows how this also explains many other sayings of the sages. So he'll go into one detail, he'll focus on one concept, one idea, one word, and he'll show how this word expresses the essence of what the teaching is of the sages. And then he'll show how this applies to other teachings of the sages as well. So it's a meron sharayin zeh shemechaber mechadish u'mamtzi lefanenu hu b'chinas nekuda mufshetes kol kach ad she'ena yadas metchumim muturim. Meaning, the concept, the idea that the Rebbe Yitzchak explains is such an abstract point that it almost has no limit to where it can be applied. Like when you're learning something, you're learning this. And when you're learning that, you're learning that. But when you're learning the essence of this, that essence, in essence, could be that as well. It can apply everywhere. But you only see that in the depth. It's like, again, on the soul level as opposed to the body level. On the body level, you and I are totally separate. I'm sitting over here, you're over there. But on a soul level, if you go to our soul is one. It's one with Hashem. And so my soul and your soul are interchangeable. So, meaning that our souls are united. They have a united force, a united source. So, this is what the Rebbe Levik was able to do with every concept in Torah. All of his chidushim, all of his ideas are like they are the neshama. And much of what he writes is Kabbalistic, which is the neshama of Torah, the inner level of Torah. But at the same time, he gives absolute importance to every detail and every small little part of the concept. And he spends time analyzing not just every word of the Maimer Chazal, be'ezel lashon nemra zachan nekeva yachad rabim, whether it's in plural or singular, male or female. Im hi chasera yud melei, if it's got the yud in it or hasn't got the yud in it. He goes into the names of the people who are quoted in the Talmud or the Zohar. Why did this person teach that lesson? Or the place or the time when it was said. Every single detail, which seem extraneous to the story, he goes into those details, but it's all to extract the inner essence, and then that can apply to other places. So, Kolomer, second paragraph. Mitzad echad mizgala lefanenu ashira shel oimek hagioni u'merchu sichli she'ein lo kol tchumim. On the one hand, what's revealed to you when you study his ideas is an amazing wealth of depth and breadth of intellect that has no limits, has no borders. But on the other hand, but he limits that breadth into specific details. He focuses and hones in on one little word, one little detail, and shows how this breadth is all in here. It's hard to find an equal amongst any other thinkers of this style. Of course, the Rebbe followed his father's style in many ways. It's quite interesting that in the Rebbe's writings you find where the Rebbe will note a grammatical change, or he will say that in early manuscripts of this Rashi the wording is this way or that way, which is a certain style of scholarship. There are some scholars who are into looking up manuscripts and comparing different manuscripts. That's a very technical, detailed, scientific way of looking at something. And then in the same paragraph, the Rebbe will explain the mystical meaning of that word that he was just looking at from a very scientific, detailed way. It's a unique way of observing, where Rebbe Yoel says you can't find many other, in the quantity and quality of this depth, you can't find many others who do this.
Were there others? Were there others?
There are. I mean, the Rogachev also has a similar style in many ways. But this style, I mean, the Rebbe Levik style is pretty unique. Again, it's not that in his writings he has two different styles. It's just one approach that includes both. They become one thing. That he goes into the language of something, the letters of a word, but by looking at that detail, he shows us the broader picture. And if you think about it, bringing together the abstract overarching principle with the limited specific details, that itself, bringing those two things together, expresses the essence that is actually not even defined by that abstract principle. It's higher than that. Meaning, if you want to divide, the dividing between the general principle and the detail, or between an abstract concept and an applied concept, or between soul and body, those divisions are all divisions in the description of something, in the manifestation of something. If you actually reach absolute essence, the inner essence of something, on the level of essence, there's no difference between the details of the body or the principles of the soul. Here he's saying a very deep idea, and that is that the division between principle and detail, between body and soul, that division is actually only from an external perspective. The inner essence of something includes both. That the essence is expressed in every detail, as well as in the big picture, the essence of something. And so what Rebbe Levik was able to do is find the essence of something and then show how that essence is the big picture and is also in the detail. So let's look at a little example. Go over the back of the page. After those three dots. Natzia kan rak dugmois achadis. Kamoven man yonim ayosu kalim akrovim le'erech hasugosenu. Hamavlitos es darkei miucheres anal. We're going to bring a few examples. We're only probably going to look at one of them that expresses this unique style. But the example that we're going to give is something that is at least close to our brain power, that we could possibly understand it.
I remember last year was really
We did
hard.
one, yeah, you did
Remember?
really break our head.
Well, sorry?
Really to like break our heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see if you have to again. B'zoy Parshas Vayikra. It says in the Zohar, in Parshas Vayikra, Shetevas Oy Meira al Sfiras HaMalchus. The Zohar says that the word Oy, Aleph Vav, denotes the Sphira of Malchus. The word Oy, what does Oy mean? Or. O-R, or. The word or in Hebrew, Oy, Aleph Vav, that word is Malchus, says the Zohar. What's Malchus? We know briefly, but we know that there are 10 emanations, 10 divine powers that he utilized in creation. The lowest one is Malchus, which is the expression of the ones above it. That, like in a person, we have our intellect, we have our emotions, our inner world, and then we have our behavior or our expression, how we express to the outside world. So too, Hashem created this form of intellectual powers, emotional powers, and then expressive, the behavioral. So there's the 3 intellectual powers, there are the 6 emotions, and the final one, 7th one, Malchus, is expression, is how he expresses himself, which is called Malchus. So it says in Zohar that the word Oy, or, is Malchus. It means Malchus. It denotes Malchus. So says the Zohar.
Does it explain?
No, the Zohar doesn't explain. So the Kosev Bagois by Reb Chaim Vital, Shama Tamazeh, and in the notes of Reb Chaim Vital, the student of the Arizal on the Zohar, it says, Oy begematria Zayin, that the word Oy has the gematria 7, Aleph and Vav, 1 and 6, which is 7, V'lechein Meira al Malchus, and therefore it represents Malchus, Ki Malchus is Sphira Hashvius, because Malchus is the 7th of the emotional faculties. There are 3 intellectual faculties, 7 emotional ones. The last one is Malchus, the expression of what's above it. So therefore the last of the 7 is Malchus. Oy, the word Oy, which is Gematria 7, is Malchus. That's the Reb Chaim Vital's explanation. Gam b'sefer ma'ira Marechas Oy muva tam zeh mibli lahoisef shum bir bazer. Also, there's a sefer, a Kabbalah sefer called Ma'ira quotes this idea as well, that Oy is Malchus. It explains it the same way, because Oy is Gematria 7, Malchus is the 7th attribute. No further explanation, no elaboration, that's it. Amnam Reb Levi Yitzchak Zatzal. But Reb Levi Yitzchak, in his Ha'aris on the Zohar, in his notes on his Zohar, because what's Rebbe Levik's style, we've just introduced at length, is to penetrate into the very depths of a teaching of our sages and to clarify it with a broad explanation that fits into every detail of it. It's not just one part of it, it fits with everything, with absolute exactness. Is not satisfied. Reb Levik was not satisfied that Malchus is represented by the word Oy because Oy is Gematria 7 and Malchus is the 7th attribute. That's not enough. Because what this doesn't explain is Why do we express the number 7 through the letters Aleph and Vav, the word Oy? There are many other ways we could come up with it, or just the letter Zayin. Why do we need to have Aleph Vav to make 7, which is the 7th attribute, which is Malchus? And he explains that the hint at the attribute of Malchus in the word Oy is also in the Teuchen, in the letters of Oy, and in the meaning of the word Oy, you find Malchus. Now, the way he wrote, the Rebbe Levik wrote on the side of the Zohar. So he had a Zohar with him. This time we have what he wrote when he was in exile, in his last part of his life. So he wrote very little, brief notes on the side of the Zohar. So what does he write? This is what he writes: the following. Pirush Alevavu, the meaning of Alevavu Oy is, what does the word Oy mean? Or. So we would usually not give much meaning to the word or. It means or, like either or, like an option, right? So, says Rebbe Levik, when you've said something previously, you just said something, and now you want to say something else, not like what you said before. So you've already made a statement, you want to make another statement, but the new statement you're about to make is different, is an alternative to what you said before. So what you're saying is, we can eat leftovers, we can go out for dinner. They're two different things. There's eating leftovers at home, there's going out for dinner. So in between those two, you say the word or. There's this or there's that. You don't say and, you say or. So the function of the word or oy in Hebrew is, I said that, I'm now saying something else. A different alternative, a different option. We're going into different territory now. So he says, so therefore the word oy is a beautiful representation of the concept of Malchus, of the sphere of Malchus. Yedua shesfiras Malchus he soif atzilus shenasas makar la'olam es biyah. Because it's known in Chassidus and Kabbalah that the attribute of Malchus is the end of the world of Atzilus and the introduction, the bridge to the world's Biyah, Bria, Yitzira, and Asiyah. In general, there are 4 spiritual worlds. Atzilus is the first world, which is a world where there's just the divine reality and there's nothing else. And the lower 3 worlds, spiritual as they may be, where there's already something else. There's not just godliness, there's something else already. So there's the world of Atzilus, and in the chain, the evolution of creation, of divine emanation, from Atzilus what goes to Bria, but the bridge between them is Malchus. The end of Atzilus, the lowest level, the last sphera of Atzilus is Malchus, which then expresses itself into the lower worlds of Bria. And that jump is a quantum leap. Going from Atzilus to Biyah is a quantum leap, because she'enum doimim l'klal b'mahusam ha'malasam Atzilus. The worlds Bria, Yitzira, and Asiyah are not anything like the world of Atzilus in their quality. Atzilus is godliness and nothing else. Bria is yesh ma'ayin. There's already yesh there. There's somethingness. There's something separate now. The world of Atzilus is absolute oneness with Hashem. The world of Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah, those worlds are separateness, where there's an entity, there's a reality, there's an existence that feels separate from Hashem. If we would enter the world of Atzilus, we'd be gone, we'd be subsumed into the divine reality. But we, living in the lower worlds, feel separateness. So there's a huge jump between Atzilus and what comes after it. And that jump is facilitated by the attribute of Malchus, which expresses a light from the world of Atzilus, but in a limited way, in a diluted way, so there is room for existence outside of itself. V'nimtza. So what comes out is she'inyan zeh shebesfiras hamalchus shememeno mishavim olam biyah. It comes out that this concept of Sfiras HaMalchus, that from Malchus is created the worlds biyah, the lower worlds, mudgum umudgu shapir b'tevis oy, is beautifully illustrated by the word oy. It's the ultimate or. There was this, but now I'm introducing you another alternative, something completely different. There's this or that. You can't have both. You're either here or you're there. There's Atzilus or Biyah. It's introducing a totally new reality. Because what is or saying? When you hear the word or, what do you know in your mind? What's it triggering in your mind when you hear the word or?
You have a choice.
That whatever was, now there's going to be something else. It's or, it's not and. And is there's this, and now we're joining onto it that. Or means you can have that, or there's something totally new, something that is an alternate route. So the teichen, the meaning of the word oy, or, is malchus, is an illustration of what malchus is, an understanding of what malchus is, the power to take what you have and to transport it to a lower level. In the human being, malchus is often associated with speech. That I have what's in my mind, and I want to share what's in my mind with somebody else. So I can't do that. You can't share my mind with somebody else. My mind is intellect. It's thoughts. Thoughts are not visible and not detectable. I can't give you my thoughts. But speech is an external expression of my thoughts. But it's actually not my thoughts. My thoughts are still my thoughts. They're still abstract. Speech is a different way of expressing that it is externalizing, so you can hear the words, and from the words you can extrapolate and understand a bit of what I'm thinking. But you never actually get my thoughts. You just get the words. So too, malchus is speech, is the ability to express to the next level. So there's Atzilus, which is a world of just divine. Hashem wants to create a world where there's separate entities. So malchus is the filter, is the or that says there was this, and now there's that. So says R Levik, the word oy, the Zohar is saying, is malchus. It's an illustration of malchus. The meaning of the word is an illustration of malchus. But this meaningful explanation is not enough for R Levik. And he goes a step further and says not just the meaning of the word oy, but the letters of the word oy, aleph and vav, specifically are an expression of malchus. We said earlier from other mafarshim, it says that it's a gematria 7. Ikre bechinas the malchus hem hakesa sheba, hascholas hachasadim, v'adas sheba, hascholas hagvurus. So it explains in Kabbalah that every attribute, every sphera is combined of all the others. So there are 10 spheres from Chachma to Malchus. Each one of those has Chachma to Malchus within it. So within Malchus, there's Chachma of Malchus, and there's all the way down to Malchus of Malchus. Even beyond that, there's also the Keser, the crown, which is the precursor, the higher level than the 10, that is also a part of the structure of every one of the spheres. So it says in Kabbalah that Malchus's structure, its main structure is made up of Keser, the crown, and Das. Why? That's a Kabbalistic concept that's explained elsewhere. So, Mikiven she'ois aleph remezes lekeser malchus, beis vav ledas the malchus, and so the letter aleph always represents keser. It's the first. It's the beginning. It's the source of all. Aleph has no pronunciation. It's the only letter in Hebrew that has no sound. In correct Hebrew, the letter ayin is ayin. There's a guttural like expression. The aleph is completely silent. It has no sound. And so therefore it represents keser, because keser is that which is completely beyond, that has no description, that is beyond any shape. So Aleph represents Keser, and Vav represents Das. Why does Vav represent Das? Kimavur Beitz Chaim Shar Yareich Drush Atbach. It's found in the writings of the Arizal that Yud Kei Vav Kei, one way of looking at it is that Yud Kei Vav is Chachma Bina Das. That Vav is Das. Vav is a connector. It is like a line, like a tube that connects from higher to lower, which is the function of Das. Das is the third of the intellectual faculties that takes from the mind and brings it down into the heart. Das opens up the rest of the emotions, the 6 emotions, so therefore itself is called Vav, which is 6. The letter Vav also means and, which is a connector, to connect, which is the function of Das, to connect above to below. So Aleph is Keser and Vav is Das. So within Malchus, we're told in Kabbalah that Malchus's main features are the Keser of it and the Das of it. And so, therefore, the word Oy, Lachen Sfiras HaMalchus, when Rebbe remezes B'Oy, the word Oy is a symbolism of Malchus. Malchus is the 7th, so that's Aleph and Vav. But more specifically, Malchus is a balance of Aleph, the Keser, and Vav, the Das. They are the 2 major features of Malchus. So therefore, the word is written Aleph Vav, which is Malchus.
So what's the last hay of the Kevapil?
Sorry?
What's the last hay of the Kevapil? If there is one Chachma Das.
Malchus. He is Malchus. Because Das includes all the Midas. Now, he continues. Zoi rak dugma achas badarka v'oifya agonim ha'miyuchad shal Reb Levi Yitzchak Zatzal. This is just an example. On the top of the next page. Mekiven shekosav bezoyer shetevas oim remezes al Malchus v'hechrach shehashayches l'teva zul l'Malchus hi mekol tzdadim. If the Zohar says that Oy means Malchus, it must mean everything about Oy is Malchus. It's not just, it's Gematria 7 and Malchus is 7. The meaning of Oy, the letters Aleph and Vav, everything about it. Hemetzad protim shalateva, Oisis, hemetzad uklos teva shlema, ozeh gufa b'cholos teva loy rak metzad mispara Gematria shala, elegam metzad toichna. V'yiser mezu metzad toichna shalateva b'mashbuusa hapshuta. Now then, he continues. Behemshich labir hanal b'maimer zar shetevas Oy mer al Malchus. After explaining that Oy means Malchus, Moisef agoin eich shal pi maimer zeh shal azar yuvnu Oy kamav kaminyonim. He says now we can understand other things. Once we've understood this, that Aleph and Vav, Oy, or is Malchus, now we can apply that, and now suddenly he sees in other places this concept. We'll just bring one example of how he applies it to something else. Something that on the surface seems nothing to do with it. It says in Kabbalah that the 4 species that we take on Sukkos, the lulav, the esrog, the dasim, and the ravas, they are a representation of one of the divine names of Hashem, particularly the Malchus aspect of one of the divine names of Hashem. So it says. So that's taught in Kabbalah. Okay, so it is what it is. It's that the 4 species are expression of Malchus, of the divine aspect of Malchus. So the Rebbe Levik says, now we know that Oy is Malchus, so we can understand what it means that the 4 species are an expression of the divine name of Malchus. Why? Because if you look at the 4 species, they're 4 species, but they're actually 7 pieces. Esrog, 1 esrog, lulav, 1 lulav. Gimel hadassim, the minimum of 3 myrtles, hadassim, and beis haravas and 2 willows. So there's 7 pieces. Bezayin dvarim elum ramaz betevas oy shemispara hu teva, hu zayin. So these 7 species, 7 parts, seven pieces that we have in the 4 species, are hinted at betevas oi, in the word oi. Because the gematria of oi, we said, is 7. But more than that, ha'esrog shu b'fnei atzmai merumaz ba'ois aleph. The esrog, which is held separately, that is hinted at with the letter aleph, the oi. The letter aleph of oi, which is its own letter. Va'lulav im gimel hadasim b'beis haravas, and then the lulav with the 3 hadasim and 2 haravas, which agudim yachad, they're tied together. Shehem b'mispar shisha, they add up to 6. There are 6 pieces there that are put together. But is vav the oi. That's the vav of oi. So there's the aleph and the vav. Because we said oi is malchus, and if the 4 species, which are actually 7 pieces, are malchus, so you've got the aleph and the vav. And he continues. And so too, the 2 letters of the word oi are indeed individually 2 letters, aleph and vav. But in the word oi, they're put together, aleph and vav, to make a word. It's one word with 2 letters. So too, the esrog, which is the aleph, together with the lulav, hadasim, and haravas, which are the vav, the 6 other pieces, even though the esrog is a separate entity held in the other hand, and it's not tied up with the lulav and its pieces, but you need to put them together. The mitzvah of Daled Minim is to bring them together. Even though the esrog is in the other hand, it's the aleph, but it's aleph vav, it's a word. It has to be together, because malchus is only malchus when it's oi, aleph vav, together. So here Rebbe Levik is explaining to us a zohar that says that the word oi means malchus. So we learned that, and we heard that aleph vav is Zion, is 7, which is the 7th attribute. But then Rebbe Levik says, but the word oi means alternative, what was, but, or this, a new world, which is malchus, the whole function of malchus, and that aleph vav is the keser and the das, the 2 major features of malchus. But then Rebbe Levik says, so we've understood this. Suddenly he thinks about something that says in Kabbalah about the 4 species of sukkos is also malchus, is an expression of malchus. How do we understand that? Now that we've understood malchus as being oi, so we can understand what that means. That oi is aleph and vav, which is 1 and 6, which is 7. The 4 species actually 7 pieces. There's a 1 and the 6. There's the esrog in one hand and the other 6 in the other hand. But it's oi, it's one word, because you have to bring them together. So now we understand the connection to malchus to the 4 species. And he concludes derech agav, just by the way, al pi hanachazu, based on this principle, that the 7 pieces of the 4 species, which represent malchus of the divine name, are hinted at in the word oi as well. He explains, now we understand what the Zohar was saying, because the Zohar says the word oi is malchus. And then, where after the Zohar quotes the word oi from a pasuk and explains that oi means malchus, the very next thing, she'oi koi al malchus, after it says that, is hu mamshich, Rabbi Yehuda pasach ksiv, Rabbi Yehuda taught, the Torah says pre-eitz hadar kapas tamarim, that you have to take 4 species and it goes through the 4 species. Reading that, you'd say, sorry, how do we get there? How do we get to this topic? We were just talking about oi in one pasuk, and how that's malchus, and suddenly Rebbe Yehuda says, "Oh, you know what? The 4 species," and starts talking about the 4 species. Where do we get into that? Now we understand, because oi is malchus, the 4 species are malchus, the aleph and vav is the esrog and the other ones, and so everything fits together.
I'm sure he would have said something widespread. You heard that.
Yeah.
Most likely, yes. Yeah, correct. Anyway, that is a little taste of how Rebbe Levik brought the details into the principle and the body into the soul and united them both as one.
Thank you.
Thank you.